The hospital room was filled with sunlight streaming through the blinds, but the air felt heavy. Imani Carter, dressed in her freshly pressed scrubs, took a deep breath before entering room 312. The patient file had already set the tone. Patricia Donovan, 56, recovering from minor surgery. A routine case, or so it seemed on paper. Imani knocked gently and pushed the door open. "Good morning, Mrs. Donovan," she said with a warm smile. "I'm Nurse Carter. I'll be taking care of you today. How are you feeling?" Patricia, lounging against the hospital bed with an air of irritation, didn't look up from her phone. The steady tap of her manicured nails on the screen was the only acknowledgement of Imani's presence. "Another one," Patricia muttered, her tone sharp enough to pierce the air. Imani frowned slightly but kept her composure. "Pardon me?" Patricia finally looked up, her gaze sweeping over Imani's uniform, before settling on her face. The look in her eyes wasn't curiosity, but judgment. "Another one," she repeated, louder this time, as though Imani hadn't heard her the first time. "Don't they have anyone else here? Someone more experienced?" Imani's stomach tightened, but her professionalism didn't waver. "I assure you, Mrs. Donovan, I'm fully qualified to provide you with excellent care. If there's anything specific you need, please let me know." Patricia snorted, a mocking smile tugging at her lips. "Qualified? That's not what I've seen so far. The last one, like you, couldn't even handle my 4 properly. I had to guide her through it myself." Imani tightened her grip on the tablet in her hands, but kept her voice steady. "I'll make sure your 4 is functioning properly during my rounds." "You'd better," Patricia replied with a sneer. "I'd hate to have to babysit you." The tension in the room grew thicker as Imani proceeded with her initial checkup. Patricia muttered under her breath, loud enough for Imani to hear. "Can't believe this place," Patricia said, shaking her head. "The kind of money I'm paying, and this is what I get. You'd think they'd..." She trailed off, her words loaded with implication. Imani's voice remained calm, though her hands trembled slightly. "I'll do everything I can to ensure your care meets the highest standards, Mrs. Donovan." Patricia's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that," she said, her tone dripping with disdain. Imani left the room and made her way back to the nurse's station, her breath shaky. She had dealt with difficult patients before, but Patricia's hostility felt different, more personal. She was jotting notes on her tablet when one of her colleagues, Nate Harris, approached her. "Imani, Director Morales wants to see you," Nate said, his tone cautious. Imani's heart sank. "Now?" she asked, already knowing the answer. Nate nodded. "She's in her office." The walk to the administrative office felt like an eternity. When she arrived, she was greeted by Director Angela Morales, who gestured for her to take a seat. Sitting across from Morales was Patricia, her expression smug and triumphant. "Nurse Carter," Morales began, her tone measured. "Mrs. Donovan has raised some concerns about the care she's received." Patricia wasted no time. "Concerns?" she snapped. "That's putting it mildly. This nurse, she's been rough, dismissive, and unprofessional. She nearly ripped my arm off adjusting my 4, and she talks to me like I'm some kind of inconvenience." Imani's jaw tightened, but she spoke calmly. "I followed standard procedures and documented everything thoroughly. At no point did I," her voice rising. "I don't need excuses. I need someone who knows what they're doing." "Mrs. Donovan," Morales interjected, her voice firm. "Please allow Nurse Carter to explain." Patricia huffed but fell silent, her arms crossed. "I've treated Mrs. Donovan with the utmost professionalism," Imani said. "I understand she's in discomfort, but I've addressed every concern she's raised." "Discomfort?" Patricia exclaimed. "That's rich coming from someone who's the source of it. I've been nothing but patient, and this is how I'm treated." Morales sighed. Mrs. Donovan, I've reviewed Nurse Carter's record, and she's one of our most capable staff members. That said, we take all complaints seriously. Nurse Carter, please ensure there are no further misunderstandings. Understood, Director. Imani replied, her voice steady. Patricia's eyes narrowed. This isn't over, she said, her voice low but dripping with malice. I'll be watching. Over the next few days, the tension between Imani and Patricia escalated. Every interaction felt like a test, with Patricia finding new ways to undermine Imani's confidence. Took you long enough. Patricia sneered one morning when Imani entered her room. Good morning, Mrs. Donovan, Imani said, forcing a smile. I'm here to check your vitals. Oh, how thoughtful. Patricia replied mockingly. I guess even the bare minimum is better than nothing. Imani's patience wore thin, but she maintained her composure. If you're experiencing discomfort, please let me know so I can address it. Discomfort? Patricia repeated, her voice rising. I'm uncomfortable because of you. You're incompetent, and everyone here knows it. Imani froze, the weight of Patricia's words pressing down on her. She took a deep breath and replied, Mrs. Donovan, I'm here to ensure you receive the best care possible. If there's an issue, I encourage you to bring it up with the administration. Patricia's laugh was sharp and cruel. Oh, don't worry. I'll do just that. The breaking point came during an afternoon shift. Imani was adjusting Patricia's fore when Patricia yanked her arm away dramatically. Ouch! Patricia shouted, You're hurting me. Imani stepped back, her hands raised. I barely touched the line. If you're in pain, I can... Don't you dare tell me what I'm feeling. Patricia snapped. You people think you can just do whatever you want and get away with it. Imani's composure cracked. Mrs. Donovan, I've done everything in my power to care for you. Your accusations are baseless and unwarranted. Patricia's face turned red with rage. How dare you speak to me like that? I'll have your job for this. Go ahead. Imani shot back, her voice steady. File another complaint. But just know this. Your behavior speaks volumes about you, not me. The confrontation was the tipping point. Patricia escalated her complaints, threatening legal action. Imani found herself summoned to yet another meeting, this time with hospital lawyers present. Patricia's smugness was palpable as she detailed her grievances, while Imani maintained her professionalism. But the turning point came when the hospital's legal team reviewed security footage. The recording showed Patricia's frequent outbursts and Imani's calm responses. Mrs. Donovan, the lead lawyer said, the evidence does not support your claims. Nurse Carter's actions were professional and in line with hospital policy. Patricia's face turned crimson. This is a cover-up. I'll take this to the press. But her threats fell flat. The hospital stood firmly behind Imani, who was ultimately vindicated. In the weeks following the ordeal, Imani received an outpouring of support from her colleagues. Director Morales personally commended her for her resilience. You handled yourself with grace. Under immense pressure, Morales said, We're lucky to have you. Imani was also promoted to senior nurse, a recognition of her dedication and professionalism. As Imani reflected on the experience, she realized it wasn't just a personal victory. It was a testament to the importance of standing firm in the face of prejudice and proving that integrity would always prevail. From that day forward, Imani carried herself with renewed confidence, knowing she had faced one of the toughest battles of her career and emerged stronger for it.